Hey guys, how's it going? It is another Thursday. What does that mean? It is Bubble Talk. Yay! Today is the 39th Bubble Talk, and I hope you guys are having an amazing and awesome week so far. All right, so just some quick shout outs over there. So all of you guys who came early in YouTube and also on Facebook, we have Jet, Haku, Youngmin, Rita, Kat, and Felix. Thank you so much for coming out early and just chatting up a storm up in those rooms. YouTube's getting pretty hot. It's getting like lots of people firing out there too. What are you guys drinking? Me. I am drinking. I'm drinking two things to be honest, and they're the exact same thing. So this is hot Japanese green tea, and then this is honey green tea. No, it's called fresh honey green tea over here. I know some of you guys drinking water. Some of you got Sprite. Someone out there is drinking Mongolian milk tea. I have no idea what that means, but basically, Sana told me that she's from Mongolia. She said that if you drink the Mongolian milk tea, then you can deal with difficult people really easily. So I'm not sure what that means. there's a magic in the Mongolian milk tea. All right. So what we're gonna do first is remember last week we gave away an iPad. So we're gonna show you this iPad giveaway. What I had to do to find an iPad. It is impossible to find. It's sold out everywhere. So let's take a look. All right, guys. It's the day after the. I can't hear. Can't hear. You can't hear. Hello. Can't hear. Hello. You can't hear. All right, guys. It's the day after the Bubble Talk. Someone won a new iPad, and so it looks like for some reason. Hello. Can you guys hear my echo? I hear my own echo. Okay. All right, cool. Are we showing this again? All right, guys. It's the day after the Bubble Talk. Someone won a new iPad, and so I'm here to buy a new iPad. It's sold out. I gotta go check someone else out right now.
Thank you, especially with Sky.
Everyone, so that was the iPad giveaway, and hope you guys really enjoyed that. Yeah, it was tough, guys. I'm telling you guys, I went to 7 stores in that one day, all sold out. And then finally, a week later, I'm just like, you know what? I should just check out one of the same stores I already went to. And I found it, last one left, and I was able to give it to her. So just want to let you guys know that is not a fake giveaway. We literally gave it away to someone. And of course, in the future, we're going to give away some more stuff too. But thank you so much. That was for getting the 1,000th subscriber. Thank you so much for joining today. So what is going to be today's topic? Okay. Now, before we get to the topic, remember this too. If you have any questions anytime during this talk, go ahead and just write it down. Anytime, right? in the middle, in the beginning, near the end, anytime. We'll put your question up in the queue, and then I'll be able to help. I'll best answer it the best I can. Okay, so let's get into this topic. Something that everyone's thinking about is dealing with difficult people, right? And this is something that I'm. I already had a lot of people that texted me like, "Ooh, I need this. Ooh, I need this," right? And it's true. We are dealing with these people every day. So, what is life about? I'm gonna tell you guys, life is about people. Okay, that's what life is about. Life is all about people. We have like series of relationships in our life all the way from when we're young. We have these, like when we're a newborn baby, we have newborn baby friends, and relationship with our parents and other people's parents, and we keep growing up, and we have friends at school, right? And then just life is just a series of relationships, right? And what happens is we're dealing with people all the time. So we're doing all that. We're dealing with people. And you know what it is. We deal with family. We deal with friends. We deal with colleagues and coworkers. We go to the mall, go to restaurants, and we're dealing with waiters and waitresses and stewardesses. And just like, there's so many people we're dealing with all the time. But one thing we do know for sure, guys, I know you know this, is there's always that one person, right? There's always that one person you're like, oh, I gotta meet this person. Oh, it's like that one person at work, that one person in the family, that one person, that one friend, right? And it's always like, oh gosh, I gotta meet this person. This is too much for me, right? There's always that one person that, oh yeah, and they're so difficult, right? There's always that one person that's difficult in life. And like, have you guys ever had this happen to you? Like, there's someone you're like so difficult to work with, or just to talk with, right? And while you're talking to them, it's like your palms are getting sweaty, your heartbeat's racing, and like you could feel like the temperature rise in your head because you're like, and it gets to a point, like, you've been talking or arguing, whatever it is, and you just can't stand it anymore, and you finally like get out of there. And then right when you finish, for some reason, isn't this crazy, guys? The moment you finish the argument, or the moment you had that confrontation, and the moment you finish and you walk out that room, you're like, oh, I should have said that. Oh my gosh, if I said that, I would have destroyed this person, right? It's like, oh, I would have killed this person in the argument. Oh, why couldn't I like think of it while I was in the conversation, right? It happens to all of us, right? Only after we think about what we could have said, only after we think about the things that would destroy that difficult person, our enemy, we would vanquish them, right? So we're going to talk about this because this is something that everyone is going through all the time. So first thing is, why is it so difficult? Like, why is it so difficult to deal with difficult people, right? Why is it difficult to deal with difficult people? Okay. And I'm going to kind of go over what your body goes through, right? When you go through certain stresses, right? Because when you deal with a difficult person, stress comes in because they're either like really annoying, they're aggressive, they're angry. There's a ton of different things that they are, right? So when our body gets into stress, how does our body react and how does our brain react? Okay. And what is it about this reaction that makes it so difficult for us to deal with people? Okay. And I'm going to tell you this one thing is, your brain functions, or the whole reason your brain is programmed to do what? Is programmed for survival. Okay, you have to understand this. Your brain is programmed for survival, to live life or death. Stress comes, your body reacts and prepares to do something. Okay, and these chemicals like cortisol and all these different types of chemicals will start shooting out in your brain, and it prepares your body to do one of two things. And what are they? Number one is, like for instance, hungry bear coming after you, you're like, your brain shoots all this like chemicals in your brain, and all your energy goes into, like, you're gonna run, right? There's one of them. You're gonna be like, and you just run as fast as you can. Second thing it's gonna do is what? For some people, when all that shoots in their brain, they're deciding whether I'm going to run or I'm going to fight back. Okay, so saber-tooth tigers coming. Like way long time ago, we were dealing with issues that were life and death. Okay, now the times have changed. However, The brain and the way it works remains the same. What does it mean? Even though the circumstances are not life and death, when the stress comes in, your body treats it like life or death. And what's that called? It's called the fight or flight that all of us have. Okay. Haven't you ever had that really, really difficult person? You have two things in your mind. Like sometimes you're like, oh, okay, just avoid them. No, I'm going away from. No, I don't want to talk to them. Oh, too much stress. And then there's that one day you're like, that's it. I'm sick and tired of this. And then you want to go and fight them, like obviously with your words. You're going to be like, let me give you a piece of my mind, right? Sometimes we do that. It's either we run away from it, we don't want to bother with it, or sometimes we're going to sit there like, that's it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I'll tell you this, 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? 2 days ago, my car got towed. And I was like, I'm calling the tow truck place. I'm like, there are so many cars out here that are illegally parked. What is wrong, right? And you know what the woman there says to me? It's like, it doesn't matter. You were parked illegal. And you know what? She's right. But I wasn't gonna have any of it. I was like, right? And then, and I was like so angry at that time, right? And what happens is I'm either gonna fight it or flight it. And what I did was I fought it, right? I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I went around the parking lot taking pictures of cars that were illegally parked. I don't even know why, right? Like, what I'm going to show them and they're going to say, oh, okay, you're right. You don't have to pay us. Like, it's ridiculous where my mind went, but it was preparing for fight or flight. Okay. So in the past, a saber-toothed tiger would come and try to kill us. And we would have to prepare our bodies for super strength to fight back or run away so we don't get caught. Nowadays, what are we fighting about? We're fighting, we're like stressed over, oh my gosh, do I look okay on Zoom? Is it okay? Do I look perfect or not? Oh my gosh, oh, I got a pimple right here. Ah! And the crazy thing is, situations have changed. It's not life and death, but the stress remains the same. And your brain cannot tell the difference between a bear chasing you and the stress you get from not looking good on Zoom, right? The stress you get from like your boss wanting to talk to you and you're like, oh my, what does it mean? And just it's the same stress. The stress is the same. It's just the situation has changed, right? There's no tigers or bears anymore. Your brain can't tell the difference, but the stress is exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some lessons that we're going to learn from today. Okay, what are the lessons? What are the things that we can do? Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Some people say to me, well, why do I have to do something? They're the ones that are difficult. Why do I have to do something about it, right? And here's the thing. You do need to change. And you're like, why? Think about it. You need to change or do something about it because you're the one that's having these mini heart attacks all the time. Like you're the one being affected by it, which means if you just leave it alone, you're always going to have these mini heart attacks all the time. It's you, right? We're the ones being affected by it. And if you realize this, if we're the ones being affected by it, then why would you wait for someone else if it's not going to help? If you're going to wait for someone else and you can't change people, what's the difference? And that's why today it's you. We have to do something about it. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean go out and kill someone. Doesn't mean go punch them out or whatever it is. But there are some things I'm going to teach you today of how to overcome or how to deal with it a little bit better with these people that are a little bit difficult. Okay. So these are the tips of as we're people that are always going through stress, we're going to have our minds in this different area. And I'm going to give you some tips today on how to deal with it. So let's go with the first one. The first one is stop labeling people. Okay, it's like, what does that mean to label people? Now, this is something that's very, very interesting because I was inspired. This is a verse way over in the Old Testament. And I was inspired by this. It's in the book of Leviticus, right? Chapter 19:15. It says, don't pervert justice. Don't show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly, right? And what happens is labeling is very, very unfair. We tend to label people, right? We have this tendency of labeling people. Why? People have a tendency to label people because usually we get frustrated in a moment. And what happens? In that frustration, we label someone, right? We're like, this person just, this person just bothers me. Oh, this person is just like this, right? And what happens is when we have that very unfavorable moment and something that's very frustrating for us, we kind of, our last resort is, oh, this person's always like this. And we start labeling them that way, right? So if I gave you like, there are types of people we label in our brain. What about the person that's not a very good listener? Why? Because at one time you came in, you're talking to them, and they're on their phone, checking their phone, and the whole time you're talking to them, but it's like they're totally not paying attention to you, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't listen, and all of you are thinking about someone right now. I know it, right? What about the person who's always trying, like, super competitive, right? Like whenever you tell a story, they tell a funnier story, and you're like, oh, that's funnier than mine. Whenever you buy something, they buy something better, right? It's crazy. And we have those types. There's the people who gossip all the time. There's all these people that we kind of put into these categories and group them, right? And what happens when we label, right? It becomes an actual bias when it might only be one situation, but you've labeled them, so then now your expectation is going to be like this in all situations. Now let me tell you why it's a bias, okay? Why you're not thinking correctly. Because number one is you made that label in a moment of frustration, so that's not a good thing. So you're already not clearly in the right mind. But here it is. Imagine there's someone who's stubborn, right? So you say, oh, that person's always stubborn. But guess what? Imagine it's your best friend. Your best friend who's stubborn. Instead of saying stubborn, what would you say? Oh, no, that person's just headstrong. And no, right? What about someone who's aggressive? And you're like, oh, that person's aggressive. It's very negative, but you know it's a bias, because if it was your best friend, you wouldn't say they're aggressive. You'd say, oh, they're just passionate. They're ambitious, right? It's really weird. You know it's a bias because you will label that person, but if it's your friend, right, you will kind of soften it up and you won't say it as negative as you would for that person you just labeled, right? Aggressive, passionate, it's kind of crazy. So labels, right? When you finally label someone, what's going to happen? Because you put that label on that person, in your brain, whenever you go to meet that person, you get anxious beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Right? If you know someone and you're like, oh, there's the guy that fought me last time. They never agree with me, right? That's a very emotional response, because people are like, when you say never, right? It's like never ever. They're always, that these are very, very wrong judgments, because people are not always and never. It's always situation to situation, right? So when you have someone you've labeled as a disruptor or someone who never listens, then you're preparing yourself to get into that. And it's like when you get called to the principal's office. If you've been called to the principal's office and you always get in trouble, and you're like, I only go to the principal's office when I'm in trouble, then what's going to happen? Before you even go, you're like, what do I do? What do I do? You got shortness of breath, and you're like, oh, what do I do? You're already going into the situation in a bad way, right? You're already in a bad condition where you're anxious. You're not thinking properly. Right? And this is why we first got to get rid of labels, right? You can't think properly. You can't think normally. And of course, we're talking mainly negative labels. But I'm telling you this, even that verse, that wise verse we read, if you show partiality or favoritism, that's bad too, because they can do bad things. But because you label them as good, you don't see how much they're hurting you, or you don't see how much they're doing bad. Okay? So there's the first one is, first tip is, you guys, we got to stay away from labeling people. Okay? Second tip I give to you guys today is you need to search for explanations, okay? What does it mean to search for explanations? I got this interesting wise proverb from the book of Proverbs, right? And it basically says, if you give an answer before you hear, then it's folly, it's shame, right? Because that's like prejudging something well before, okay? And this is what people do. One of the things a bad mistake we make is, we kind of like become mind readers, and we think we know exactly what they're thinking. Like, what's the intention? What's the reason for what they do? You got to think about this carefully, guys. We do have to search for explanation, because the explanations could be something that you'd say, oh, that's why. Okay, that makes more sense, right? So, like, the question is, can you read minds? And the answer is, I don't think anyone can, right? Are you psychic? And the answer is, I don't think so. Like, the majority of us, maybe 99.9999999% of us, are not mind readers. We're not magicians, right? We're not these like people who are psychic and stuff like this. We're not like that, right? But for some reason, we think we can tell what people's thinking, like what their intention is. What's the explanation behind it? Let me give you an example of something remember, this all comes from stress. that impairs our mind to think properly. So let's think about this. Is stealing bad? And the answer is it's bad. Stealing is bad. We know that, right? However, are all people that steal bad? And the answer is no. Why? Because sometimes you steal by mistake, right? Some people they forgot something and they put the chocolate bar in their bag. They weren't thinking about it. It was just an honest mistake, right? Does that mean they're no? That's a situation that's much different, right? Sometimes people steal because why? Because their children are dying and they have no money and no one's gonna help them and they have no choice in the end. Would you say, oh, you evil and wicked person stealing because no one's helping you and your kid's gonna die if they don't eat this piece of bread? You wicked no one, it doesn't make any sense. When you learn the explanation behind their behavior, like, oh my gosh, I feel bad now. Oh, that's what they were going through. That makes a lot more sense, right? And that's why we do have to search for it. We can't just sit there and judge before we hear everything. And when we prematurely judge or pretend to know exactly what they're thinking, we basically make tons of mistakes. And that's what I'm telling you guys, you need to make a deep search, right? Don't just listen to stuff. No, don't just listen once and, oh my gosh, bad person. Or, oh, I can't believe this person did this to me because of this, and this. No, guys, you have to make a deep search and find the explanation. Because a lot of times, the worst thing that can happen is you prejudge something that's not even true. And later, when you find out their reason, you're like, whoa, okay, that makes sense. And you kind of give people more leeway. If someone treats you bad, one of your friends treats you badly, and you just say, oh, this person's so mean, he never should be my friend. And then later you find out they just found out that day that um, their parents got into an accident and their mother died, and you'd be like, oh, and then you think about all the things you thought about your friend, and you're like, oh, I feel terrible, right? So that's why we have to make a deep search, right? Don't just be the judge. Don't be mind readers. But we really need to search out, what's the deep, what is the intention? What is the reason behind their behavior? And later on, you'll find out it's much different than you think. Why? Because what you think, you have no idea why people do things or what they're going through, and it's much different most of the time. Last but not least, well, there's these three things, and I'm gonna call these the double letters. Okay, the first one I'm gonna call it three easy tips. The first one's called L&L, which is love and language. Okay, now when I say love and language, this is something very important, and this is another proverb that I really like. It's in chapter 15, verse 1. This talks about a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger, right? And the way you speak and the way you talk to people makes a big difference. It really does. The way you speak and the way you talk to people makes a huge difference. And why I say love in language is because you don't talk to people you love like them. You don't want to hurt the people you love, so you're very careful about how you speak, right? When I say love in language, love is about being careful so you don't hurt the people you really, really love. So what happens is the language you use is what you call very inclusive, right? Inclusive language means it's about us. Why? Because when it's about love, it's about two people. Communication is not one, it's just one person. Communication is two people. And what happens is when you people who love are not going to be like, you did this and you did this and you said that. Yeah, right? Yeah, when you really, really love someone, it doesn't go into the yous, it is what can we do, right? I see that our relationship is not going as well. What can we do to make it better? And people respond much better to inclusive language than exclusively only right? It's true. When you're like, even if you are wrong, right? Like that person when my car got towed, they said, you parked illegally. And I'm just like, right? And then, I start doing stupid things and I prayed curses on them. It was kind of a joke, but yeah, that's what happens, right? So communication is between two people, and you want to be able to be inclusionary in your language, and it does make a big difference when it's us. What can we do instead of look what you did? Okay. The next one I'm going to call it R&R. Okay. The first one is L&L. This one's called R&R, which I call recognize and reward. right? Recognition and reward. And one thing that we should really, really become good at is people don't like working with their enemies, right? People who are difficult and they like have a very, very difficult time working with them. People don't want to work with them. They have a hard time. Sometimes it even makes projects go bad because they don't like each other very much. And recognition and reward is just a small thing that we should always consciously try to do is if someone did something well, tell them, recognize them, reward them for, oh, that was so good. That report was so good. Oh, thank you so much for helping me out for this. Oh, let me take you out to eat. We want recognition and reward. Why? With recognition and reward, as small as it is, you will change enemies into friends. Oh, wow, they really acknowledge, oh, they support me. And what happens is when you become friends, they trust you. And not only do they trust you, they want to build together with you. So whether it's business, whether it's friendship, whether it's love, whether it's anything like this, even like a server in a restaurant, if you're really polite, they want to serve you. They want to help you, right? Then it becomes this amazing thing where, oh, thank you so much. Well, you didn't have to do this, but you did. I'm so grateful, right? Recognition and reward. And the last of these for today, I call it B&B. It's not bed and breakfast. It's breathe and break. Breathe and break. What does this mean? When you're being chased by a bear, what is your breathing patterns like? Right? And you're so nervous, you're running frantically, right? So you can actually trick your body into thinking everything's okay. How? Breathing deeply. Okay, so what happens when you breathe in deeply? Like, you're actually flooding your body with oxygen, right? And what it's telling your brain is everything is okay, right? Because when a bear is literally chasing you, you're not breathing in like that. Your brain is going to respond to what your body does, right? So if you breathe in, take a deep breath, what's going to happen is your body's going to think, oh, I think it's over now. And it starts to calm you down. So breathing is a big thing. And also, second thing is a break. And I also think breaks are really, really good, as in, the situation is not good. So what should you do? Just say, hey, you know what? It's getting kind of emotional, and I think we're kind of like maybe real riled up by this. Let's just take a quick breather, right? For 10 minutes, just calm down, everything else, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it again. And that one small break is like that deep breath between two people where they kind of bring themselves down to, okay, oh, that's so true. Right? Because remember, a lot of times, like I said in the very beginning, you're talking, and then you walk away like, oh, I should have said that, right? But then it's like you breathe, you take a breather, everything calms down, then you start thinking at the reasonable, normal level. You can come back with good ideas and good thoughts and kind of get out of that, like that fighting mode. Okay, so break and take, break and breathe. Okay, so I hope that these exercises are things that you can do, right? There's no way for us to control other people. This is about what you're able to do, right? Stop labeling people. Really wait before you make a judgment of what they're going to do, but search for an explanation, like really make a deep search of an explanation. You want the L and L, it's the love and language. You want the R and R, you want recognition and rewards, and last but not least, you want the B and B, which is breathe and take a break. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys out with dealing with difficult people. I know that it's not an easy thing. I hope that you guys will really be able to use these things, at least some of these things, to get yourself through these difficult relationships. So what now? It is time for question and answer. So I hope you guys can post your questions right now into the room. There's a lot of things that we could talk about. I hope that you guys will be able to ask the cool questions, like the good questions that we all need to hear. Okay, so as you guys write your questions down, I am going to take a sip of my drink, and we'll get into the question and answer. Okay, so let's go to the first question. First question here. Oh, actually, not the question. Those of you who are here for the first time on Espresso with Sky or on Facebook, go ahead and like and comment. And also just click on the subscribe button and just demolish the notification bell. We're doing really well so far. In this last 6 months, we've gone up to like 1,100 subscribers, which is great for us. And we started from like just talks with maybe like 2 people, right? And if you would like to support our ministry, go ahead and you can click the link on our Patreon account. And last but not least, for those of you on 1 p.m. on Saturdays, like this Saturday, we will do 1 p.m. small group Bible study on Zoom. Just going to put your name and email there, and we'll definitely get back to you and give you, we'll email you the link. Okay, so let's go into the questions right now. First question is from Steve. Steve in Singapore. It says, aren't there some people that are too difficult that these tips may not work? And the answer is yes, of course, right? So remember, the reason why there's never 100%, it's never going to work like this, mainly is because we cannot control other people, right? We just can't. And because we can't control other people, there's nothing that's 100%. There's nothing that's, as long as there's like imperfect human beings that are not, they're not perfect, there will never be 100% thing, never, right? So, but the thing I don't want you to, so we have to realize there will be these types of people, and there are going to be things that are not going to work, but what we need to work on is what we can do, right? Because even if it's someone else doing these things, we're the ones going through the mini heart attacks, which means that if you just leave it as it is, you're always going to have these mini heart attacks. But if you can start actively doing something to help yourself, whether it's a breathing technique, taking a break, whether it's the language we're starting to use, these are the things that can help us so that we can deal with them a lot better. Because the most important part for us is, can I deal with this person, right? And am I okay with it? And just making sure that we don't get into this spike of emotion where it's like, ugh, like you look back and you say, oh, I'm so embarrassed that I did that, okay? So that's question number one. Question number two. What does question number two say? Question number two is from Jenna in KL, okay? Question two is from Jenna in KL, and she's asking, I have a colleague of mine. Oh, I feel this colleague of mine is impossible. Impossible, okay. I don't think any of these will work because it's, I guess she's saying this person is so far and so extreme. Okay, so one thing I do want to talk about to Jenna is remember, the biggest thing that we're working on is ourself, right? And that's the biggest thing that matters more than anything else. Is it's about us. And I don't want you to label them already and say impossible before you even try, right? Because if you already label them impossible beforehand, every little thing you're going to be like, see, I told you, right? You'll try like breathing techniques, it'll be like, oh, see, it doesn't work. You're already like prophesying for yourself, and you're going to go that direction. You got to take that label out that this person is impossible, and you got to actually try these things out. And then, right, you have to, as long as you're doing the things that you need to do, right? And then you can assess a little bit later, but it's really, really difficult to say it's impossible before you tried anything. And this is what a lot of people do to stop them from actually trying. So Jenna, more than anything else, just make sure you don't label them impossible because you never tried it yet, right? And it doesn't mean to try, just like, hey, have a sip. You'd be like, and if you just have a little sip of it, you're not going to taste it, right? It's like the straw doesn't work. It's like you need to suck harder, right? It doesn't work. No, you got to actually do it. Okay, so in the same way, I hope that you don't label them in that way, and we'll really, really be able to, take care of ourselves and do our best. Okay, does this mean we're going to the quiz right now, or no? Oh no, it's a Stealth Black. Oh, that's cool. That picture's really cool. Is that Naruto? I can't see who that is. Stealth Black is asked, where's Stealth Black from? Do we know where Stealth Black is from? Okay, so what if that person is like a rapist or sexually harass someone? Should I still consider to find a reason behind their behavior? And the answer is yes. Yes. Right? And it's not saying that we're giving them an excuse to do it. Right? Something that extreme and that bad is really bad, and really it should never happen, right? But it is like, I'm not sitting there like saying that go welcome these people into your houses and such, but it's more of, why is this person like that? And there's a story that I always tell people is, one time I had this when I was in South Africa, and I was like a missionary at that time. And what happened was, there's this girl that came really like, not violent, but she pushed guys around and she spat and she cussed, and beautiful girl, but she was just like, why is she, and everyone's like, what the heck is wrong with her, kind of thing. But later we found out, when we searched, I found out this person was adopted, like abandoned as a child, adopted, and was beaten as a child from their step parents, and then they moved into another house, and because she was super pretty, what do you think these stepfathers were doing to her? And she moved from house to house, and these stepfathers were continuously doing this. And when you hear that, what happens in your head is you begin to understand why certain things are happening, and you actually begin to, oh, that's why it's happening, right? It doesn't mean you're saying, okay, you have a free pass. No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is it makes a big difference when you really understand why someone is doing the things that they do. It makes a big difference, right? And of course, in your situation, when you're talking Stealth Black, I'm glad you brought this up because it's a very extreme situation, but we always got to look into it, right? Because like, I'll tell you what we can learn. When we learn about people who have, like, say, fatherless homes, or there's like parents divorced, or like multiple different things, there are statistics that show that these people are more likely to do certain things, which means, right, for us, in my mind, as someone who's like, if I become a father, it's going to be, wow, I can never let that happen to my child. I gotta be a great father for them, right? And some things that we'll learn. Does it mean I'm giving them a pass? No, it's not a pass. But I am going to understand their position a little bit better. And this is when I'm going to have some empathy and understand, oh, wow, this is what they went through in their life. And it's a good thing to understand these things, because there's a difference between someone who does it because they're just purely wicked and evil. Like I talked about stealing, right? Some people because it's a mistake, some people because of this, some people because of that, but you have a range, right? And that's why even in the world, when it comes to murder, it's not just a murder is all the same. There's first degree, second degree, third degree, right? There's many different types because reasonings, they're all crimes, but there's a difference between the three levels, right? And we all understand this, and that's why we also need to be understanding to other people too. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Great question, Stealth Black. Good to see you here. I think it's your first time I've seen you, but thank you so much, Stealth Black, for that wonderful question. So let's go into the quiz, right? We're gonna do today's quiz question for some free bubble tea, okay? So once you get the answer, all you need to do is type it in the chat room and we'll pick a number and we'll choose that person, okay? So, question is this. It's a very, very easy question, right? As quick as possible. Which country did the coronavirus start from, right? Go ahead, write your questions. Which country did it start from? Write it all down and then we'll pick a winner and we'll see who will get the free bubble tea today. Okay, so let's go into the last question of the day. Okay, last question from YouTube. It is Yu Ying from JB. Okay, and the question is, if colleagues really don't like me and say my attitude is very bad, how can I face them if I need to work together? Okay, so if this could be a question about reputation, and I always talk about there's this one way of doing this that it is very, very easy to fix. It'll take some time, but it is 3 steps I really want. Well, I don't know if it's 3, but these steps that will really help you to change your reputation. Now, how did you get the reputation? Maybe it's you did the same mistake 2 or 3 times, or you maybe did something once or twice or 2 or 3 times, and then people label you as, this person has a bad attitude. Okay? Now, whether you have a bad attitude or not, that's something you need to fix if you have a bad attitude. Okay? So I'm not sure about this because I don't know you, right? But here's the thing. How do you change your reputation? Once you have a reputation, it sticks with you like a label, right? That's who you are. How do you change it? Well, you have to do the exact same thing, but in the opposite direction. So you talk to your coworkers and say, hey, thank you for telling me about me having a bad attitude. I really want to change this, right? So if you can help me out, right? I want to be someone who has a good attitude. Okay, so if you can help me out. So then that person first is going to be like, oh, wow, this person is really trying to change. Now, if you do nothing after that, and you even if you are changing your attitude and you're working really hard changing your attitude, and let's just say 6 months down the road, once again, blah, you do something bad again, right? Like your attitude goes like crazy, then what are people going to say? Look, she's still the same, still has the same bad attitude, even though 6 months went by. Why? That's what a label is. So how do you get rid of the label? First, 2 weeks later, you go to that same person and ask, remember, it's the same person. Hey, how have I been with my attitude? And they'll say, hey, you know what? You've been pretty good. Oh, cool. It's like, keep it up. Yay. 2 weeks later. So now a month has passed by. Hey, how am I doing so far? Is there anything you could tell me? No, you've been doing great. So what are you doing? You're re-reminding them. So it's just like the same way when you did something bad, you do it again and it reminds them of it. And you do it again, it reminds them again. What you're doing is you're reminding them of the good now, right? And then after that, a month later, ask them again. A month later, ask them again, which means that already in their heads, 4 times, they acknowledge with their mouth, wow, you've changed. Then, as you keep asking a month at a time, when the 6-month mark comes and bad attitude comes out, and people start saying, see, she has a bad attitude. What's going to happen? That one person you've reinforced will say, no, man, actually, she's actually been doing really good. And for 6 months, she has been amazing. Guys, she is trying hard. She is not the same person she was. And they'll even defend you, right? So it does require 2 things. And the first thing is that you have to find someone, right, that you trust and that can help you out. Second thing is you do have to change your attitude, right? You do got to change it. Like, you do have to change it, find out what's wrong. And of course, the third thing more than anything else is reinforce it by in the first 2 times, ask them every 2 weeks. And then after a month has passed, ask them every month. And you're reinforcing it constantly. Okay. And that's how you're able to kind of renew your reputation, because you do need to work with these people. It'll take about a good several months, like 3 to 6 months. But if you do it well, you can change your reputation in your workplace. Okay. Yu Ying, thank you so much for that question all the way from JB, which means we're going to go into who is the winner of today's bubble tea. And the lucky number we picked today is the number 12. 12. Yeah, whichever it is, right? The lucky number is number 12. So whoever wrote the answer 12 in YouTube or Facebook, we're going to see who the winners are. The winners are Rain Lee from Facebook and Mike Kenneth, and Mr. Kenneth Ing. Oh my gosh. All right. So both of you go ahead, write congratulations to Kenneth and to Rain. Thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your bubble teas. Make sure you take a picture of your bubble tea too. And everyone, have an amazing weekend. Hopefully we'll see you on Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday. But we'll see everyone next week again. Everyone, have a good time dealing with difficult people. Bye-bye.
The whole room on the tip of my finger, and I'm pointing it right back to you. When I look at you,